Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think there have been a number of interesting and important issues raised so far in the debate. I mean, I don't think, again, just following on from Pete Hodgson, supplementary member, as described by Leanne Jazeel, and I agree with her analysis, is just first past the post and drag, and I think the public will be able to see that easily enough. But I would also just say that I don't think there is anything inherently wrong with a politician or a political party saying what kind of system they think is better than other systems. And the Green Party makes no apologies for saying that we want to have a system of representation, of democratic representation, that is fair as possible for all New Zealanders, and that all New Zealanders are entitled to be represented in this House of Representatives that is, after all, what it's for, and that we should always be striving for the best possible system that provides the greatest level of fairness and the greatest level of representation. And there is no doubt that our current system of MMP provides a much greater level of representation and fairness for a much broader section of our New Zealand community than First Past the Post ever did. I mean, you have people in this House representing views that were never otherwise heard in this House, and that is the point. That is the point of a representative democratic process such as we have in this country. And that's nothing to be ashamed of, and we should always be striving to make it better. It's always, I agree with the Pete Hodgson, it is always a decision of the citizens as to what system they use, and that is why we use the system of referendum for citizens to be able to make that decision, and rightly so. It is a decision that belongs to them and them alone. But it's very important to talk about the different kinds of systems that are possible for managing a democratic process like we have in this country, and analysing them on the basis of their ability to provide fair and genuine representation for all voices in the community, not just the wealthy, not just the properties as it was in the past, not just those who are privileged and have access to people with power, but all of those who have been marginalised in the past by the systems of power that we have here, and by the elite, and by the influence of wealth on our political system. Those people who have been most marginalised, whether it's women, Māori, young people, people who have a different analysis about power, they all are entitled to representation here as well. And there is no doubt that MMP has provided that representation. We see that it's just sitting in the chamber as we speak. There are more Māori in this chamber, there are more women in this chamber, there are younger people in this chamber, specifically because we have an electoral system, MMP, which provides for a much greater level of representation of all communities. And that is a good thing, and that is something we must protect and continually strive for. Now, in this legislation, setting up the referendum for looking at our electoral system in 2014, there's a number of very good things that we're pleased with. The caps on spending that apply in electoral finance apply here as well. So all political players in the referendum debate will have a cap on their spending to ensure that there is a level playing field for everyone involved, and that's good. We don't want money to be the major influence for how citizens might decide their political system is to be managed. And so that's very good that we have that. But I would just raise one query around the decision to have this referendum at this time, and Amy Adams raised a number of issues around size of electorates, for example, and a whole lot of subsidiary issues that sit around the kind of electoral system that we might have, and note that there is a constitutional review that's just been announced between National and the Māori Party that was part of their coalition confidence and supply deal. Now that constitutional review contains a range of matters that are as significant and deep as the role of Te Tiriti o Waitangi in our constitutional arrangements, which really is the first question, to operational matters like how many MPs there should be. You know, the breadth of this review is such that it does make you wonder why we would have an MMP referendum in the middle of that, quite separate from that discussion. If we're going to be talking about how we should be governed and asking the public, citizens, to talk and discuss and make decisions about how we should be governed and all the different aspects of that. What is the value set for that, for how we should be governed? What are the principles by which we should be governed? Who should be how should we structure the process for governance, who should be part of that process, who should make the decisions, what are the constraints, all of those things, then surely the electoral system is actually a part of that discussion. So having these two very different processes occur at the same time doesn't make any sense from the point of view of having a rational discussion about our constitutional arrangements. And that's a disappointment, that actually by splitting out MMP in a referendum at this early stage, we are presupposing, we are sort of predetermining what's going to happen with our electoral system, while at the same time we're asking the public to discuss that very issue in a completely different forum. And that doesn't make any sense from a practical point of view, and it certainly doesn't make any sense when we're wanting the public to have such a broad discussion about these issues, but separating them out structurally. It's not a good way to go about it. So I'm disappointed about that. I'm disappointed that in the deal between National and the Māori Party, they weren't able to see that these issues really did fit together, and that they should have been dealt with in a more consistent and systematic way, such that we could provide the system for the public to have that discussion in a very systematic way that gave the greatest level of support. So I think that was a missed opportunity, and will continue to be a missed opportunity over the next few years. But overall, Sir, the Green Party supports this legislation. I would reiterate that absolutely it is the right of citizens to make decisions about the electoral system with which they use to elect those who will govern on their behalf. And we look forward to that process. Thank you.